Tim, what does Tim Gard have that other Tims around the world does not have? People watching in, Dr. Elka, name one thing that Mr. Tim has. A chicken. What? A very big chicken and a very little chicken. Yes. A wife that travels around the world with him to Bali for less than 24 hours. Yeah. And a big picture of him behind him.
That's my suitcase.
Suitcase.
That's my bag tag. That's how I can tell my bag from anybody else's.
Have you ever been told that you have a doppelganger?
You know, I have a couple of times. I really have over the years. And I had somebody at the airport stop me a couple months ago and said, walked up and said, called me Carl. And he really leaned in and looked, and it was like, I'm pretty sure I'm not Carl, you know, and so, yeah. So I do have that happen occasionally.
You do have the German chin. You know that, right?
That's my background or my heritage, I guess. My family came from Germany.
So did you become a motivational humorist to deal with the Germanness inside of you that you had to fight?
You know, more than anything else, I grew up in an Air Force household. My dad was enlisted Air Force. We moved up, and this is Tuxedo, by the way. He's 18 years old. He just needs a little reinforcement every once in a while. He still loves, so just ignore him. But I grew up in a military household. My dad was in the Air Force. Every 2 years, we moved to a new radar base in these very remote places, like in Montana and Wyoming. There was maybe 200 families there. I went to like 1-room, 2-room schools. And every 2 years, I had to make new friends and reinvent myself. And I think, you know, everybody realized they go to their strengths. My older brother played music. My younger brother was in theater. I was president of everything. And really just kind of started using it more than ever to connect with people and to be liked, I guess, would be the beginning of it. But it was when I found out I could teach other people that they could do it too, that really doors began to open for me, that it's not about me telling funny stories. It's really about how everybody can use humor. That was a big eye opener.
Now, but were you born kind of funny, or do you think you learned it like watching someone, or do you think some of us are just good at it and some of us are better at singing and dancing?
You know, I think everybody has a superpower. I think some people maybe have a higher, I don't know if it's been proven genetically. I do think that what happens is when you discover that you do something well, then you would keep working on that rather than some other skill. And that's really, you know, I think the biggest part of it was learning to be better and better. I looked at the old vaudeville acts and how they could make people laugh without, you know, even sound, which helped a lot during COVID. And I had to do virtual programs, but yeah, study the science of it and why we laugh. And I mean, and this is your field. It's really something people don't understand, but we all smile and laugh in the same language, and it brings us together. And anyway, the more that I learned about it, the more I wanted to share it.
So there's this word like we empower people. So do you feel like once you learned it, you had the ability to like empower people to also get the same kind of love and friendships and that feeling that you get when someone laughs at you with you?
I really do. And I get that a lot afterwards where people will say, this gave me encouragement. You know, my coworkers, you know, they really didn't understand, and they used to kind of slow them down. Now they would appreciate their humor. I mean, I'm one of the few speakers, a lot of speakers have never had a job. I worked in an office. I know what it's like to have like my own cubicle and be passed over for promotion by somebody else. And you know, it's really something where we want to find a way to use humor no matter what we're doing and where we're at.
That brings us to an interesting point for everyone who is watching. Thanks for tuning in, 6 a.m. Australians and early morning Fridays in the West Coast. And you people in Europe who have nothing better to do on a Friday night, I'm so glad that you're
glad you're here. We're glad you're here.
Thank you. I'm glad you're comatose after comatose? Comatose?
Comatose. Comatose. That's when you have your toast and your comb for breakfast.
You're combing your toes because they're hairy and then you fall over, something like that?
Just like that. There you go.
Okay. So sometimes I'm new in this industry. I've only been like trying to get on stage just for 4 years. And then I saw you on stage 2 years ago. I went on Together We Can Change the World with your buddy, Scott Friedman.
Scott Friedman,
Yeah. And then he told me there's like motivational humor speaker was a thing. And I'm like, oh, that's what Tim was doing on the GSS stage. That's a thing. And then I talked.
Yeah,
he's the thing.
There's motivational speakers, there's leadership speakers, there's people that inspire you. I call myself a motivational humorist, and that I try to get people to use humor as a business skill, or even in their own lives, to deal with their situational stressors, and not just let it happen, but to do it intentionally, to find a way to see things differently so you don't get mad.
Beautiful. So you don't get mad. Because you decide to focus, I was watching your videos, on stress and resilience. So you could theoretically call yourself a stress resilience expert speaker, but you chose to stick with the motivational humor speaker. Why did you keep in that niche?
And I think it's something, even in the new marketing material that we'll be working on, that I think speakers, as the language changes, as buyers to our services change, we've got to change our language to match that. And I suspect that in the next year or so, you'll see that a lot more of stress and resilience, and less as motivation, because people are dealing with different types of stress that we've never ever encountered before. And really, some of them are now trying to connect after working at home. And it used to be, you could leave the office at the office and leave home at home. And now a lot of people, that doesn't work anymore. So the resilience, I think, more than anything, is where the business is going to be going, especially in the next year or so, to teach people how to keep that going without having to continually go to get reinvigorated.
Yeah, like comedian shops and watching monologues on Instagram at 1 a.m. when you're in a bad mood.
Well, the thing is, with comedians, make you laugh for the moment. It's learning to find things that help you laugh the rest of your life. And instead of choosing that anger, like I say, is find something offset it. When I worked for the government, they had changing policies. This is mental floss, Jessica. You can floss out, take all the old rules like that and floss them out. And so whenever we came up with new policies and things like that, the mental floss would come out, and it made us laugh. So it's just a different way of looking at things that normally would cause us stress.
So then you're saying the future, who knows, because younger people are coming into HR, the Gen Zs have less attention span than us 40, 50, 60-year-olds do. What are you going to, you got the $1 million story. Everyone who's watching knows you're famous for Big Sweaty Guy. Is that going to be shifting to thin, non-sweaty guy?
No,
old.
So the Big Sweaty Guy story is 11 minutes long.
Yeah.
A story is as long or as short as it should be. There's no set length on that. But if I won't do that story unless I have an hour and a half on stage, and our time frames are getting shorter and shorter. I think when I did $1 Million Roundtable last year, that was 20 minutes. I had 20 minutes in front of everybody. And, interesting thing that happened there at $1 Million Roundtable, the lady that brought me in said, Tim, we watched you, and we watched a video of you where they translated your stories into French. And they said it was very interesting. When you got done with the story, the English people laughed, and then the French people laughed. And then they both realized what was happening, and they all started laughing together. And then she asked me a question that was great. She said, is that really the best use of your 20 minutes? And I said to her, if I have the longest sustained laugh at MDRT, I can live with it. And I hope you can too. And when I did the program, and I did that story, you had the French people over here, the Japanese, and these groups start laughing, and it was like the laugh heard around the world, and then they all start laughing again. And so, it unites us, it brings us together. And I think that motivation is one thing that we can remind ourselves for, but with humor, we can use it anywhere, anytime. I can watch something on my phone to laugh. I just think that resilience and humor are going to be strong marketing points in the coming year.
Because when I started into this field, humor wasn't so strong. And then I saw Andrew Tarvin's TEDx talk get 14 million views on humor. And I saw him at the Applied Improv Network 2 years before that. He hardly, I don't want to say he didn't get a clap, but he changed the topic from improv, which a lot of us do, because if you talk to the audience, you have to be able to improvise with the loud people who think they're so funny. And he changed it to this humor thing, but so many people are afraid to use humor. And And I know it's scary because you have to believe in yourself and know that you're funny, even though people aren't laughing most of the time. But don't you think courage is like a really brave thing for people to do to develop resilience?
Well, I think it is the courage of it. It's, for us as speakers, I know, not everybody's going to laugh. Not everybody shows an outward demonstration of laughter. I did a program for a group that was primarily Native American here in the US, and I got done, and this very 6 foot tall man walks up, face never moved the whole time my program, and he looked at me, he said, "I've never laughed so hard in my life." And I wanted to say, tell your face. But I do think that people may like it and not demonstrate it. And I wanted to address too, Felix had sent a question that I liked a lot there. And he said that Toastmasters, you condense a story to 7 minutes.
Yeah.
In that genre and with Toastmasters, and I've spoken at International Toastmasters a couple of years ago, a story is as long or as short as it should be. If you want to compete with Toastmasters, Felix, you're 100% correct. But I've watched experts take a story started at the beginning of their program, and it runs all the way through the program and then comes to a conclusion. It's fascinating to watch. If you look at the story like that, we don't tell it and retell it. We live it and relive it. And so there's no one length on the platform. There is with Toastmasters, but not when you're on stage. Just wanted to answer that question.
Yes, I watched your story on the plane ticket, and when you bought 2 tickets, I posted it earlier today, and the guy was like, well, I can't say it as good as you, but the airline guy was like, "Oh, you won," and you're like, "I don't want to win. What did you say?
I just want to have fun.
Just want to have fun."
That's all I want to do. I want to have fun.
Right?